is go time. We are live at Studio B with your day-to-day BYU sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jerem Jordan. The last time BYU men's basketball won an NCAA tournament game in the round of 64 was when a guy named Jimmer Fredette played all the way back in 2011, hoping that they can get off the schneid in that regard.
Absolutely, and Jimmer knows what it's like to make a bunch of shots, and you know, what's his advice for Yegor Demon right now, playing at TCU. It's the first time since he was on the team, as you mentioned, that they're playing in Fort Worth. Many of those questions and more are discussed as I talked to Jimmer earlier this morning. Jimmer, you've done a ton in your career, but coaching now is kind of the next step. How's volunteer assisting at the local high school, Chatfield, there in Colorado?
It's been really good. It's been a lot of fun. I got into it because my wife, Whit, she is the cheer coach at Chatfield. She's an assistant cheer coach. She loves it. She's been doing great. And they found out that I was her husband and asked, hey, would he be willing to help with the basketball team? And I was like, yeah, this will be fun for me. Excited to work with kids, work with the youth, and be able to try to just, send as much knowledge as I possibly can to them on the player development side, and just enjoy some high school basketball. It's fun to get into a high school gym again and see the town all come together and be able to come to a game and see the energy that it has. So it brings me right back to Glens Falls high school days, and it's been a lot of fun.
Not a lot of people know this, but we hung out at your high school once upon a time, the summer before 2010-11 season. That was fun. I said, hey, can you assist me on a three? I missed the first one. I made the second one. I felt good about that. There's sort of a raw purity to that. Yeah, I tried. I missed the first one. My bad. Let's talk about what BYU is doing now in the Big 12, and certainly coming off a disappointing loss to Texas Tech. They've got a big game with TCU coming up Saturday. Of course, TCU. You played TCU a bunch. How are you feeling about what BYU is right now and where they can go?
Yeah, obviously the last couple of games it's been tough. Houston, Texas Tech, both really good teams. That's what you're going to get in the Big 12. It's just the way it works. You're going to play really good teams on any given night, and you're going to have to be prepared to battle each and every night. And we knew that Texas Tech was going to come in. We beat them last year, and they were going to come in and be prepared and ready to go. And I'm excited to see how we continue to progress. Obviously, two losses in a row. Now we need to see how we can bounce back against a TCU team that we can beat, obviously, and it's something that we have to take care of business, but none of these games are going to be easy. So it's just a mentality of next game up. Hopefully if you can get to, or like you said, if you can get to around 500 in the Big 12, you're probably making the NCAA tournament, because you're going to get some really big wins and you're going to play close games against really good opponents. So it's going to be important for, these guys to just next game up mentality and, have someone step up and play well during crunch time.
At TCU, the last time BYU played in Fort Worth, you were senior. You're Naismith and National Player of the Year, which was awesome. You had 23 points, below the average, I think, of 28.9. So it was just a tiny bit underwhelming at 23. What do you remember about that game?
So what I do remember is, at that point we were playing really good basketball, and I think it was about 75% of the fans were actually BYU fans. So it actually felt like a home game in TCU in Fort Worth. I remember going into the game, going out of the game, we had to have security because there's so many people outside. They were waiting for us at the bus to try to get in, to be able to hang out and just, take pictures and autographs. So we had a great BYU contingent down there at TCU. I don't know if it'll be the same this time, but I hope so. I hope all the BYU fans come out, and if we can get 75%, feel like a home game, that would be helpful.
That would be awesome. And amazingly, BYU's won 17 in a row against the Horned Frogs. Like, it feels weird to say that. Certainly it's a different TCU than it was in that era. But last year's game, BYU was down 17 at halftime, Jimmer, and came back to win by 12. Yeah. So certainly different teams every year with the transfer portal and whatnot. But the way BYU's playing, certainly there's some NBA excitement around Yegor Demon and Kenan Catchings. What's the key for those guys to elevate their game to be their best selves so that they can maximize their chance to get to the NBA?
Yeah, I think, in Big 12 play, these teams are super aggressive defensively. They get up into these guys. A lot of these guards are smaller, quick, very strong guards that they're just bulldogs. And, it's something that's a little bit different that we played against in the non-conference schedule for the most part. And so it's going to have to be something where these guys kind of assert themselves physically to make sure that they're using their big frame. These guys are tall guys. They're 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". Just use that body, get into these guys, be able to get to their spot, and try not to let that pressure bother them too much. Use that body to be able to get to a spot and then elevate and rise up over these guys. I think that's something that needs to be done, especially at the Big 12 game. But it's just about being mentally and physically just tough. These guys they're going to come out and play every single game like it's their last. That's just the way that the Big 12 is, because these are all super important games for NCAA tournament reasons. So I think it's something that where they seem to be, assert themselves physically a little bit more and make sure they get into their guy, not be afraid of that physicality, and use that to their advantage.
It felt like in the first half, especially against Texas Tech, BYU was doing that, Jimmer. They were getting to the rim. They were getting to the free throw line. They weren't knocking down free throws. They weren't making open threes. Sometimes you just miss, which brings me to this. Yegor Demon, he's got a nice looking stroke. Shot the ball well at the beginning of the year. He went through a stretch until the very last three he took against Texas Tech where he missed 21 threes in a row. He's coming off a bit of a knee injury. Not that you know what a shooting slump is, but what's your advice to a guy who is trying to get back into a rhythm where we know he's a better shooter than this? He just hasn't made some shots.
Yeah, it's just mental at this point. I mean, that's how it works sometimes. As a guy that is a shooter, I've been through slumps before. And the biggest thing is trying. Yeah, I've been through slumps before. I can't remember right now exactly, but at some point. But the biggest thing, you got to get back into the gym. I know obviously he's doing that, but get back to the basics and get back to a routine that you're doing every single day of shots that you're getting in the game, and making sure that you're getting to those in practice, doing them game speed, and making sure you're getting a number of makes that you feel comfortable with, to make sure that you get that rhythm back, right? And make sure so when you get into the game, you're shooting these exact same shots they were just shooting in practice. You have a comfort level, and then try not to think about it. And it's easier said than done. It's just getting out there and playing reactively, and letting that muscle memory, kick in, and not thinking about it too much. Just understand what the defense is giving you. Practice, is going to be important. You have to go game speed when you're practicing, and making sure that you're shooting the same shots that you're going to get in the game. If you can do that and get a rhythm and get an actual routine and do that for, a couple of weeks in a row, I feel like you get back into a sense of, all right, I can hit these shots again. This is exactly what I'm doing in practice. This is the exact same shots I'm getting in the game. And if you can feel that, it's going to help you once you get back out there. But, it's easier said than done, like I said, because it is mental. You just have to not think about it. You have to have short-term memory loss as a shooter. I don't even remember if I made or missed that last one. The next one is going in, though. And you have to have that type of mentality. And I think he can get there. Hopefully, that one that he made at the end can take the lid off of the basket and feel a little bit more comfortable going into this next game.
Ted Lasso, be a goldfish. Jimmer Fredette is on BYU Sports Nation. Dallin Hall was a massive piece of what BYU did last year on a very successful team in Big 12 play, got to the NCAA tournament. This year, it still feels like he's kind of carving out what his role is when he inserts himself with Yegor Demon and whatnot. Much has been made of that this week. What are you seeing from Dallin, and what do you hope to see in terms of him trying to figure it out a little bit better?
Yeah, it's been a season of trying to figure it out right now for Dallin. I love Dallin. He's such a tough kid. He's such a great basketball player. And one thing I want him to do is I really want him to be a leader on this team. I feel like we need that. Him and Richie need to be two of the guys they're stepping up and leading this team from a toughness standpoint of just going out there and playing as hard as he possibly can. Because, for him, he was used to having the ball in his hands all the time for the first 2 years, right? He's dribbling the ball. He's making all the plays. He has a feel and a rhythm for the ball. That's not necessarily the case this year all the time. Yegor has the ball a lot. Cannon's catching and shooting. Richie's being a little bit more assertive. So he's not necessarily always the guy that's handling the basketball. So he's having to learn how to play off the ball more. But the things that he can control is, on defense, getting into a guy, creating some turnovers, maybe getting some easy run-out baskets for himself. and making sure that he's shooting his shot with confidence. Not shooting the ball great this year, especially from the 2. So I want to see him just continue to be aggressive, play the game that he needs to play, and be someone who's a little bit more assertive out there and try not to be, too passive. I understand that's not super easy sometimes when you don't have the ball all the time, but being able to cut hard and do all these things where you just feel like you're a part of the game, even when you don't have the basketball, is going to get you a little bit more in rhythm when you do get that basketball. So, I'm excited to see how he continues to grow into the season. I think that, he understands that he needs to, step his game up more for this team to be great. And if he and Yegor can be the players that we think that they can be, this team can be really difficult to stop. So, I'm excited to see how he continues to progress going into this next game.
I completely agree. Dallin, Yegor, huge keys to what BYU could become this year, which it's different now, Jimmer. BYU hired an NBA associate head coach. It's the Provo thing. They've stacked this staff with NBA people, from nutrition to strength and conditioning to mental strength to the actual coaches. It's a new era. Perhaps we underestimated maybe how long it might take to sort of transition into this phase, but BYU gets a guy like Yegor Demon, Cannon Catchings. AJ DiBanza's coming. What are you seeing in terms of the transition of what this program is becoming under Kevin Young now?
Yeah, no, it's different. I mean, you're becoming like a blue blood type program, right? You're looking at a Duke type of program, a Kentucky type of program, where you're getting top tier recruits, guys that are going to be, top 10 pick in the draft. In AJ's case, probably the #1 pick. Yegor, probably a top 10 pick, guys of this nature that are going to come into your program. So you're looking at kind of like the roster that they have this year, which is a couple of young guys that are super talented, probably NBA picks that may be one and dones. And then also you're going to have a group of guys like the Richies, like the Dallins, like the Foose, where these guys are the guys that are playing around these top 10 draft picks. And everyone's going to have to get used to that, because at BYU, it's normally been, you've been here from a freshman, you're there all the way until you're a senior, you grow into your roles, you understand what you're doing. So, freshman and sophomore year, you're not playing quite as much, but you're understanding. Junior, senior year, you kind of take over. It's going to be a little bit different. And you're going to have guys that are coming in that are all of a sudden, hey, they're going to have the ball the majority of the time because they're great basketball players, and that's, what they're going to do. And everyone else is going to have to fit in around that. So it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. You're going to see some amazing basketball because of the talent level that is coming into BYU. You're going to see some things that you haven't seen before, necessarily on a talent standpoint. But it does take time for those roles to understand what their role is, and understand how they play when they are used to having the ball more, and now they're playing off the ball more. When a new guy is coming in, you got to understand what their game is and how they play and where they like to get their shots off. So there's going to be a little bit of a period of, figuring things out, and that's okay. They're still going through that at this point. Like I said, it's been 3 Big 12 games. These are probably the 3 toughest games they've played all season, and they're starting to figure out, hey, this is how we need to compete. This is how we need to play. So I'm not worried for them yet at this point. I think that there's still time to be able to figure those things out, but the roles are going to have to be defined, and they're going to have to understand exactly what they do. And once they figure that out exactly, they're going to be a really good basketball team as they move forward, into this program from this year, next year, and the years beyond.
TCU Saturday, and then Oklahoma State Tuesday at Utah next Saturday. You hope BYU can string together some wins here in the next couple of games. Jimmer, we appreciate the time as always. Great to talk to you.
Jeremy, it's great. Good seeing you again. Let's go Cougs.